Now to CNN reporter Nic Robertson, who joins us again from Brussels. Nic, good evening to you. Good morning where we are. So, is it a good deal?
It certainly seems to be the best one that Boris Johnson could get, but it's a deal that's left that important political ally you just said kind of standing at the station. He's got on the train and moved out of town, and he kind of needs to have them on the train too, because when they don't support the deal because they think it's a compromise too far, because it is a win also for the European Union that the European Union's single market is protected, and the Irish Prime Minister is very happy because the economy on the whole of the island of Ireland is protected. But for those politicians in the north of Ireland, they think the compromises that they've made will drive up prices of goods in the shops, will give their citizens in the north of Ireland less choice in those shops, and ultimately this makes Northern Ireland less part of the United Kingdom, puts a bigger gap there. It's a good deal maybe for Boris Johnson, but that compromise and losing the support of that party could actually cost him getting the deal through the British Parliament. So it's good today, but is it going to be as good on Saturday when it gets voted on in London?
The signals aren't great from the DUP nor Jeremy Corbyn. That might all change by the weekend. Do you see that happening?
I don't see Jeremy Corbyn changing. He's dead set on, trying to bring down this government and certainly not supporting Boris Johnson, putting him in political pain. The Scottish National Party, the SNP, they really want to have elections and they're not going to support this. Most people in Scotland didn't vote to leave the European Union. They feel that Boris Johnson's deal leaves them as the only bit of the United Kingdom that didn't vote for the deal, didn't vote to leave the EU, and without a say, because I say that because one of the things that the DUP in Northern Ireland did get was a voice in 4 years from now to say whether they like the deal or not. That's not good enough for them, but that explains that. The other opposition party in the UK, the Liberal Democrats, are straight out for Remain, so they're not going to vote for this either. And when the DUP don't support it, that means some of the hardliners in Boris Johnson's party might be better persuaded not to support it. The numbers don't add up for him. And no, I don't really see that changing. One or two waverers maybe might change, but it may not be enough.
OK. Now, Nic, let's move beyond your Saturday. Let's say this doesn't get passed. What happens then?
Boris Johnson is, by law in the UK, forced to ask the European Union for an extension. He's saying that this vote Saturday is either for the deal or for no deal, meaning or implying that he's not going to ask for this 3-month negotiating extension from the European Union. The European Union didn't really want to discuss that today. That was very clear as well. So you start getting into a legal and constitutional wrangle if the Prime Minister doesn't do what he is obliged to do under law, and this has been around the political houses a few times, and it is nailed down legally about as tight as you can go. So this could end up in the Supreme Court. I think where people expect this to end up before Christmas is a general election. Look, Boris Johnson could pull off a shock and get this deal through, but I don't see the majority of people who sort of study this really carefully, I don't see them making this calculation at the moment. The Prime Minister says he can, but I think that really is, at this moment, very ambitious. And I'm not sure he's got any other tricks to pull out of his sleeve at the moment either.
No, but Nic, is there a risk here that on the 31st of October there could still be a hard Brexit?
Sure. The Prime Minister and his aides within 10 Downing Street have been spinning, if you like, as sources quoting, and these are very authoritative sources, and everyone knows who they are. Certainly the politicians in Boris Johnson's party know who they are. And they believe that there are a number of ways that he can legally get around this very binding law that obliges him to ask for the extension. So the party thinks there's a calculation there. And part of the calculation, everyone's calculation about Boris Johnson has been that all along this has been about getting to a general election where he goes to the electorate and say, I got a deal. and Parliament wouldn't let me pass it. I am the politician that's trying to deliver on the people's will, the outcome of the referendum. I'm trying to deliver on the people's will, and Parliament is blocking me. He hasn't won a vote in Parliament yet, but that's a narrative that could get some traction. So he could do well in the election. But again, would he really come out with a big enough majority to force through anything he wanted in the future? That's an open question, and the polls don't seem to stack up to that either.